There are 33 films in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and I tell you what, guys, this video has been a long time coming, because it's finally time to rank the MCU. What is up, everyone, and welcome back to Jones Vibes. Hit the like button if you can do this all day, and let's dive in. All right, my friends, well, right off the top, I just want to say Happy New Year to you. I hope you had a great 2023, and I hope 2024 is even better, but this is a video that I've wanted to make for quite some time now. You all know how much we love the MCU around here, and so it's time to put my opinions on the line and rank all 33 of these movies. And so I'm not playing around today, I'm not going to waste any time. Let's dive in, starting with number 33. Coming in at dead last is The Marvels. And you may have seen my review on this one. I honestly was more mad at the edit of this film and what felt like studio interference, because there was a good movie in there, but it ended up just being my least favorite MCU experience to date. But moving on to number 32, we have Thor: The Dark World. And you know, it's funny, I give this movie a chance upon every single rewatch, and it just never gets better. It just felt more like a Star Trek episode than a Thor movie, and it wasn't my vibe. But coming in at 31, it's Thor: Love and Thunder. And I think a lot of people can agree that Taika just kind of pushed this one a little too far. He amped up the comedy from Ragnarok to like 150%, and he really forgot to focus on the incredible villain that he had at his disposal in Gore. But moving on to number 30, and this one could be a little controversial, I have The Incredible Hulk. It's near the bottom of the list, yes, but it's not as bad as you remember. Obviously, there was a casting change, but it's still canon, and I'd say give it a watch if it's been a while. But number 29, we have Captain Marvel. And I gotta say, I like Brie Larson, and I like the character of Carol Danvers. I just feel like this movie was not what I was hoping for. But number 28, we have Black Widow. And it was about time that we got a Natasha solo film, and Florence Pugh was the clear standout for me, and it was good enough. It just didn't blow me away. It kind of felt like too little too late, you know what I mean? But moving on to number 27, Ant-Man and the Wasp. And this one feels very much like Thor: The Dark World for me. The villain, or villains, are just really not that important. It's always good to see Paul Rudd, but this was just not their best outing. And then on to number 26, we have Iron Man 2. And I know 26 is pretty far back, but there are a lot of films here, and this is kind of where things start to bunch up for me. Iron Man 2 is a fun movie, but it just kind of felt rushed, which it was. And it's a very formulaic superhero movie. But coming in at 25, we have Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. This movie was just smack dab in the middle of a phenomenal trilogy, and I love it, but just not as much as the rest. On to 24, though, we have Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. And I very much just need to continue to rewatch this one because I feel like I still just haven't gotten it. Wanda is awesome, but there's just a lot about this movie that feels off to me for some reason. It very much feels like a Raimi movie. I just don't know if it feels like an MCU movie. The cameos do rule, though. And then 23, I put Thor. The very first Thor. And do I love this movie? No, but it's nostalgic because this was the introduction of Hemsworth to the MCU, and after a couple of grounded superhero movies, they really pushed the boundaries with this one. But moving on to 22, I have Ant-Man. And the little guy gets a lot of flack from a lot of people, but I don't think it's deserved because this movie freaking rules. Would I have liked to see Edgar Wright's version? Yes. But do I still enjoy what Peyton Reed did? Yes. And that's okay. But on to 21, Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. And man, Chadwick passing away really is awful. But because of that, this movie is special and powerful and beautiful. It's honestly amazing to me that Coogler was even able to make this movie work. But anyway, yeah, Namor rules, and that's about it for that one. Moving on to the top 20. Starting at 20, we have The Eternals. And I said what I said, this movie is vastly underrated, so go watch it again. That's my advice. But then coming in at number 19, we have Iron Man 3, which is a Christmas movie, by the way. But Tony Stark is obviously the best, you know, but a more personal look at him, at least somewhere in the trilogy, was very much needed, and this movie is really, really, really good for that. But on to number 18, Doctor Strange. And adding Benedict Cumberbatch to the MCU MCU was just about as good as it gets. And somehow making this movie about magic make sense in the MCU is kind of a feat of its own. But moving on to number 17, and this is the one that I already know that I'm going to get the most crap for, but I will die on this hill. Number 17 is Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. I love Quantumania, and it's 100% all because of Jonathan Majors' performance as Kang the Conqueror. And we all know what has happened now, but with all of that aside, this villain elevated this film from a mediocre movie to a great movie. And I will watch it again and again and again just for that performance. But on to 16, I put Spider-Man: Far From Home, and this is another movie that just gets way too much hate. Gyllenhaal is awesome, and the way that they weaved everything together with Mysterio and his past with Tony Stark, like all of that was just really dope. But on to 15, and we are getting down there now. We have Captain America: The First Avenger, the introduction of Chris Evans as Steve Rogers. And bro, just like Red Skull, the Tesseract, this movie, it rules. Especially the more and more time goes on with the MCU and new projects keep rolling out. You had Iron Man come out and it's like, whoa, Iron Man, but then you have this Captain America movie come out and I don't know, it really has a strong foothold on the MCU, and I love Captain America, so. But then 14, I put Spider-Man: Homecoming. And mainly just because Tom Holland is an incredible Peter Parker and Spider-Man, and the fact that the MCU actually had a teenager playing this character, and they put him in high school, it had a different tone than we'd ever seen, and then you throw in Vulture and Michael Keaton, and you just can't go wrong. And then as for number 13, I have Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, and this one's a little different because I can't rewatch it as much because I get super emotional with this film. I realized that after the first time I watched it. Like, I'm a big animal person, and the Rocket and Lila stuff, it hits hard, but it's such a good movie. And then number 12, I have Thor: Ragnarok. There's really no denying that this movie completely revamped the character of Thor for the MCU. It made him accessible for so much more as a character in the next Avengers films, and I think that this first movie from Taika really just elevated the character so much. Every time I see it, I find myself enjoying it even more, so. On to number 11, we have Black Panther. And obviously we talked about Chadwick, but when you look at this movie from top to bottom, it's almost perfect. The music, the set design, the costumes, the villain, the family. The MCU nailed Black Panther. They really, really did. But on to the top 10. Starting with number 10, I put Avengers: Age of Ultron. And maybe this is controversial, I don't know, but Joss Whedon got to expand on his work from the first Avengers, and although it has a different tone, I think that as the years have gone by, more and more people have recognized just how good this movie actually is. I think it's 6, so that's why it's number 10. As for my number 9, I got Guardians of the Galaxy, the first one, and I just love the story of this film. All of the doubt that was surrounding it, and then James Gunn just comes in and makes a masterpiece and blows everybody out of the water. Somehow the misfit movie fit, and the MCU was changed forever. So that's that, and on to number 8, The Avengers. And it's crazy how times have changed, because The Avengers for so long was either my clear-cut number 1 or number 2. Like, it always was up there, and now it's number 8. So that certainly says something about how incredible some of the stuff that we've gotten is, but it really is just an incredible achievement, bringing everyone together and making it work. But then moving on to number 7, Captain America: Civil War. And I think that what the Russos achieved with this one is honestly wild. You have this very dark and serious plot going on with Cap and Tony, while simultaneously introducing Black Panther and Spider-Man. Then you also have all these other characters, and you have Zemo sort of pulling the strings. It's just genius. But moving on to number 6, I put Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. And you might be thinking, dang, you like this movie that much? And yes, I like this movie that much. Shang-Chi to me is freaking incredible. I saw it 3 or 4 times in theaters, and I just think that Destin Daniel Cretton understood the task. He gets the action. Simu Liu was perfect casting, and I guess my question now is, where the hell has he been since? Like, where is Shang-Chi 2? Why haven't we gotten a post-credit scene with him? I need answers. I'm desperate, man. But on to the top 5. We have what I'm sure could be a lot of people's number 1, and gosh, it very well could be mine, but I put Endgame for number 5. The emotions that this movie brings are real, and it's undoubtedly one of the greatest cinematic achievements of all time. There are only a few MCU movies that I enjoy more than this, but it's still just crazy to me that Endgame even exists. So yeah, but on to number 4, I have Iron Man. And I talked about this with the Avengers, but Iron Man was typically my number one when I was doing these rankings. It's the movie that started it all, and honestly, it's a perfect movie. It really is. The MCU is RDJ. Like, Tony Stark is the reason why we're all here, and so I'll always just have this, like, deep appreciation for the first Iron Man film. But on to number 3. We've come so far here. I put Infinity War. This movie stands right next to Endgame, but the clear difference for me, for my enjoyment, is the ending. The cliffhanger. Like, I will always remember sitting in the theater and watching all of these characters turn to dust. It was so quiet and so chilling. I couldn't believe that they went there. It's movie magic, and that paired with what is just a phenomenal film puts this at number 3. But moving on to number 2, I have Captain America: The Winter Soldier. And maybe you don't understand this one, but I can't deny it. Winter Soldier is probably the best film to come out of the MCU. It's a superhero movie, but in my opinion, it stands shoulder to shoulder with movies like Point Break, or The Town, or Heat, or even Dark Knight. I absolutely love what the Russos did with this, and yeah, Winter Soldier is just a banger, man. But we made it, and man, this was a long list, it really was, but we made it to my number 1, and my number 1 favorite MCU film of all time is Spider-Man: No Way Home. Spider-Man and Batman are my favorite comic book characters of all time. And then you mix that with Tobey. You know, Tobey's Spider-Man had a massive impact just on my childhood. I also was a big supporter of the Andrew Garfield movies. In a time where everybody was hating on those movies, I kind of stood firm with the fact that, like, man, I don't know, he's doing a pretty good job. Like, I like Andrew Garfield in the character. But then you have Tom Holland and what he's done with the character, and then mixing all of that together, having this big event film, and you get Willem Dafoe, you get Alfred Molina, you get Jamie Foxx, you get, you know, the emotional scene with Tom Holland and Aunt May. There's so much to this movie. And then you have a finale that rounds out this version of Peter's sort of origin story, leaving the character in such a strange place. Like, it really just blew me away. And when I'm talking about this list, I'm talking about my enjoyment level. I went to this movie 6 or 7 times in theaters, and I've watched it many more times after it's come out. And so, yeah, Spider-Man: No Way Home is my favorite MCU movie. But that wraps up my list, and now I'm more curious than ever to hear your thoughts on my list. I'll probably get some crap for some of the decisions that I made, but that's okay. I will stand here firmly. But then besides that, I would love to hear your guys' lists. Where do you guys rank these movies? I don't care if you write me a paragraph down in the comments. Like, show your list. I'd love to see it and just kind of see how you do things. There have been so many films at this point, 33. That's just a ton, and it's crazy to even think that we're going to get more now. So I'm sure these rankings are going to change. Hopefully we have some amazing movies to come. We have Deadpool 3 here in the future. But yeah, guys, that's about it. So yeah, like I said, leave me all your thoughts down in the comments. I've also been making a ton of MCU content lately, so click on another video if you enjoyed this one. Subscribe and hit the like button if you're new around here. I'd really appreciate that support. It means more than you know. You can follow me on X at Jones Vibes Only. And don't forget to keep up the good vibes, guys. But 33 films down, what comes next for the MCU? I guess we'll see.